And Trump just now will speak to the DOJ about Maxwell pardon. Oh my God, he is really going nutty mode, dude. He's going off. Fantastic. Incredible. He is trying his fucking hardest, it seems. He's no longer alive. He's trying his hardest to be like, he's trying his hardest to communicate to everyone that will listen that he is definitely a pedophilic associate of Jeffrey Epstein, it seems.
Yeah, please.
Mr. President's term today, Mr. President.
Say it.
The Supreme Court is back and they rejected today an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell to overturn her conviction. That means her only chance of getting out of prison is a pardon from you. Is that something you're...
Who are we talking about?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
You know, I haven't heard the name in so long. I can say...
Haven't you? He's like, yeah, once we put her in a minimum security prison, everybody stopped talking. Everybody stopped talking about her. We put her in minimum security, and she gave a beautiful, some might say, the best eyewitness testimony. I forgot about it because everybody forgot about Jeffrey Epstein. Why are you bringing her back on? I will release her.
That I'd have to take a look at it. I would have to take a look. Did they reject that?
She wanted to appeal her conviction.
And what happened?
They said that they were not going to hear her appeal.
I see. Well, I'll take a look at it. I will speak to the DOJ. I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it. So, but I'll speak. I will speak to the DOJ.
Why would she be a candidate for clemency, sir?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look.
Like, what do you mean? You have to look into it to even entertain clemency for a serial convicted pedophile. This makes no sense. Okay? This makes no sense whatsoever. What are we talking about? Where is the confusion? Also, whenever he says, oh, I'll look into it, he means like he is looking into it, as in he wants to do it for the record.
Look at it. I have a lot of people have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
But she was convicted of child sex trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to take a look at it. I'd have to ask DOJ. I didn't know they rejected it. I didn't know she was even asking for it, frankly. Yeah.
He did definitely know. That's bullshit. He's now all of a sudden willing to talk about healthcare. Oh, turns out when the Democrats offer even the slightest amount of pushback and make healthcare a major issue, Donald Trump is forced to concede on this issue. Interesting. Who could have been advocating for this? I wonder. Oh, that's right. Everybody on the fucking left.
Close to that number. And the way you stop them is not to give away, not to announce that you're giving everybody free health care, free this or that. But what that does is it affects the American people because the American people are unable to get good health care. Obamacare has been a wreck, as you know, and to do that, we have to keep it propped up and do the best you can with it. It's a mess. But a lot of things are going on in that. You know, we talk about Hamas, then we talk about negotiations that we...
What? You gotta be adversarial when they are as well? Wait, what? No, I'm not. I've been supporting the Democratic efforts on the shutdown this entire time. Wait, what did he say about Hamas?
We talk about Hamas, then we talk about negotiations that we have going on right now. We have a negotiation going on right now with the Democrats that could lead to very good things.
What kind of
and I'm talking about good things with regard to health care.
Are you speaking with Democratic leaders? What kind of negotiations?
Well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But we are speaking with the Democrats, and some very good things could happen with respect to health care. But it's...
You'd rather talk about Israel Palestine than healthcare? I mean, it don't matter. It's a big problem because the Democrats have successfully made it a big problem. And the only way that they could have ever made it a big problem was if they did this, which is ironic because that was my argument for the first time that they could have done a shutdown, that they could have pushed for a shutdown. Okay? Some more from this press conference. A reporter, Israel has been arresting activists today. For instance, Greta Thunberg. She has an anger management problem. I think she should see a doctor. You can have her. Now, what's interesting about this is that, like, I've been following closely the Samud Flotilla apprehensions, and obviously all of the European leaders, all of the European countries have actually demanded the return of their citizens There is one exception for all of the countries around the world that haven't demanded the return of their prisoners currently being held in an Israeli detention facility. And America is one of the countries that actually has not done so. Yeah. One of the executives of Progressive International, David Adler, who I have communicated with quite a bit, is currently apprehended by the Israeli government, and the American government has not made any demands for the return. Of course, that's unfortunate because the California senators happen to be two major dick riders of Israel, which is probably part of the reason why they're not even demanding that. Luckily, Ro Khanna has been taking the initiative, so shouts out to Ro Khanna. We'll give him his props because he deserves it. In any case, let's take a look at this.
And a follow-up question on Israel. Israel government has been arresting and deporting activists that were traveling to Gaza. Today, Greta, for instance, also some...
Well, she's just a troublemaker, you know. I mean, she's no longer into the environment, now she's into this. She's a troublemaker. She has an anger management problem. I think she should see a doctor. She needs anger. If you ever watch her, she's a young person. She's so angry. She's so crazy. Now you can have her. You can have. She's just a troublemaker. Talked about that.
And a follow-up question.
Yeah,
on
making
Israel.
trouble for the big, beautiful, most moral nation state on the planet, Israel. A big troublemaker, hater. You can have her. It's like, luckily, she's not an American citizen, so she's not, you know. There's a totally different government that has to make those demands. But yeah, let's talk about this judge blocking the National Guard troop deployment in Oregon, saying there is no reason for there to be a troop deployment in Oregon, and hitting the Trump admin with a TRO, temporary restraining order. But of course, it's, we'll see if it's actually going to work or not, because it doesn't seem like Trump gives a shit, and will try to push for a constitutional crisis at every step. So, that's where we're at right now. Let's take a look.
Overnight in a tense Oregon
And I gotta
hearing,
pee
a
real
federal
quick as
judge
well.
blocking President Trump's attempt to deploy members of the California National Guard into Portland, saying she was troubled by the Trump administration's attempt to circumvent an order she'd issued just a day earlier. Trump had already tried to send in Oregon National Guard troops to Portland. That was halted on Saturday. The administration then tried on Sunday to send the troops in from California. Then late last night, Judge Karen Immerget, a Trump appointee, issued a new, broader order prohibiting the administration from using federal control to send any state's National Guard into Oregon, and pressing the government's attorney, saying, quote, "You are an officer of the court. Do you believe that this is an appropriate way to deal with my order, or an order that a judge issues that you disagree with, or is that an appropriate mechanism to appeal as you have done?" Over the weekend, federal officers clashed with demonstrators at the ICE headquarters in Portland, firing pepper balls and flashbangs. Portland police say they did not observe any person or property crimes committed, and no arrests were made. But the Trump administration insists violent criminals are destroying Portland, and troops are necessary to protect federal assets and personnel. In a ruling Saturday, the judge wrote Portland's protests were not significantly violent or disruptive, and that Trump's description of them was simply untethered to the facts. That deploying the Oregon National Guard likely exceeded his constitutional authority.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Oh, it turns out I'm glad that there is still some semblance of order within the courts, and that Donald Trump's direct attacks against the judiciary has not shook many of these judges. In the same way that these justices at the Supreme Court are obviously totally corrupt. It's interesting to see when you have Trump appointees that are obviously from a conservative background, or even all the way down to Reagan era judges turning around and being like, dude, enough. You know what I mean? This is our job. Our job is to literally put a check on what you're doing. And it's very obvious that you are leading the country into an incredibly unstable place that will have repercussions that are long lasting. Now, of course, the top slot is still overtaken by these these Christ-cucked crypto fascists who don't care about anything other than appeasing the interests of their masters, whether it be the Heritage Foundation or the Federalist Society or just like American capital in general. But this kind of stuff at least gives me a little bit of confidence that maybe, this is like basically the last line of defense. Now, of course, you should not sit around and wait for the courts to properly adjudicate and defend your constitutional rights. Like, you still need to show up. You still need to make a big fuss. You still need to showcase your discontent. And it works in unison. It works in tandem. You show up, you showcase your discontent, and then people are reminded that we are not obeying in advance to the wishes of this administration as they very clearly move in the direction of full autarky, full authoritarian control over every aspect of the American government.
State's Attorney General pushing back against the president.
As the president, you must have an actual facts based on reality, not social media or just your gut feeling if you want to mobilize the military.
Now, to be clear, the judge's ruling simply bans the president from sending the National Guard here to Portland. Portland's police chief has also pushed back against the National Guard here. He fears that it would just escalate crowd behavior. Of course, the Trump administration has appealed.
That's the other thing. Like, it's very obvious the decision for Portland is significant because Portland is one of those places where they will push back. And I think Trump knows that. And that's the reason why, while most of the discontent has been fairly civil, they are trying to make a big deal out of it in an effort to lean into the Portland is on fire narratives. They want a confrontation. They want escalation. They want a confrontation worthy of some semblance of escalation that then turns into a much larger confrontation, and then they can justify the troop deployment to a larger percentage of the population. Now, Portland also is unique in the sense that it has drawn the ire of conservatives for many, many years at this point. For like the last decade, Portland has been considered this like Antifa safe haven, a complete like autonomous zone for radical anarchists and things of that nature. Portland is basically like the Jimmy Kimmel, if Jimmy Kimmel was like an anarchist. Portland has been the anarchist Jimmy Kimmel placeholder for a lot of conservatives. So there is more appetite for military intervention in Portland in the eyes of like many Republicans. And I have noticed that he's not doing this kind of stuff in red states, because I think he also recognizes that if he were to pull this same shit in red states, then the red states would start also experiencing discontent and showing up, and he would start withering away his base of support. So it's not just about like punishing the liberals in general. He will inevitably punish anyone who is a naysayer, but it's clear that he's trying to do this. It's clear that he's trying to do this in like these liberal safe havens. And it's so crazy because this kind of political polarization coming from the top office, when you're supposed to be the president of all Americans and not just like a increasingly shrinking number of Americans with unlimited appetite for death and destruction that see you as a cult leader, that see you as this, heaven's mandate receiving monarchic style figure. That's not how things are supposed to operate in this country. As long as he keeps doing this stuff while not improving people's material circumstances, I think more and more people are going to get frustrated and be like, all right, enough with this tomfoolery. Fix the goddamn prices, big dog. And this has been my argument. This has been my argument from the jump. All right, now we are going to talk about perhaps the most consequential news story of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I've been talking about for a while at this point, because they were saying that this was going to eventually happen. And it's finally here. Trigger warning, bovine Bari Weiss. Okay. Trigger fucking warning. One of my ops is getting elevated to a higher position of power that she does not deserve. Why? Because she's pro-Israel. Okay. How does she rise to such prominence? Brown-nosing incredibly wealthy billionaires and attacking all of the wealthy billionaires' critics. How else? How else do you get elevated to a position of prominence in mainstream media nowadays? She basically looked at manufacturing consent and read it as a how-to. Now we talk about like filters and self-censorship that the media engages in an effort to be elevated, in an effort to reach higher positions of prominence. She saw that and was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I should just be out with it. Like I should be outwardly a dick rider of incredibly wealthy billionaires and attack all of these incredibly wealthy billionaires' enemies and critics. And she has basically had a incredible career of failing upwards while demonstrating zero talent. Okay, whether it be in the New York Times or she made her stupid unaccredited Institute of Higher Learning, Austin University. She's just the ass kisser of people in power. She has presented herself in the same way, like she is identical to Ben Shapiro, except instead of trying to build an independent media franchise, she did the Ben Shapiro route on mainstream news. And she also had a lesbian background, so she weaponized that pretty hard to make it seem as though she was somewhat more liberal than the average social conservative, right? She found that perfect frequency that wealthy social libertarians appreciate, where she very famously once said, I still remember, in I think it was in a Heritage Foundation seminar that she was talking at, where she said, look, I'm a lesbian, and there are plenty of people in this room that would not want me to marry my life partner, but none of it matters because every single person in this room unifies. Oh, it was a Federalist Society. Okay, thank you. Here's the quote. I'm going to read it verbatim. I know that there are some people in this room who don't believe that my marriage should have been legal, Ms. Weiss told the Federalist Society, an influential conservative legal group, in 2023. And that's okay because we're all Americans who want lower taxes. This guy had a good article on Defector Media on Bari Weiss. Here's a great way to summarize who Bari Weiss is. What makes the free press an attractive prize for Ellison is his choice of enemies, or to engage in a smidge of Weissian anti-writing, whom it never goes after. The free press only punches down and to the left, never at those who hold real power, but lustily at their critics and adversaries. If you are a billionaire buying a media organization in order to consolidate your power, you could not find a more eager servant than Weiss, someone blissfully captured by the richest people alive and invested in smashing the last vestiges of liberal power in this country: universities, civil servants, and the media. She has a cop's heart and a tadpole's brain, which makes her the ideal partner for someone like David Ellison, Larry Ellison's fail son. And now, this dipshit is placed directly in charge of CBS News with an artificially elevated status, once again, because she has sucked up to the incredibly wealthy billionaire class, and also consistently defended Israel. And now she's being rewarded for it. David Ellison, Larry Ellison's son, purchased CBS and then moved on to purchase the Free Press. And in the process of purchasing Free Press, David Ellison artificially boosted the value of the Free Press, which many of you might recall is one of my ops, to $150 million. Okay? Now, does the Free Press actually have any significant output that is worthy of $150 million? Of course not. Of course not. But that was the point. The point was, in my opinion, to show the rest of the media watchers, the rest of the journalists, that if you suck up to the billionaires and you suck up to Israel, we will pay you. We will bribe you. And we will elevate you to a position of higher prominence that you do not deserve. Bari Weiss is now going to be the editor-in-chief of CBS News, accountable to nobody except for David Ellison. Timestamp PBS realizing that Ellison, the Ellisons are buying up the media. Yeah, I like that. I like that this has been such an aggressive and egregious consolidation of media by the Ellison family that you even have PBS in an uncharacteristic fashion ringing the alarm bells, partially because I suspect that public broadcasting is also directly undermined and underfunded by the Trump administration.
Landscape here now, because when you look at the Ellison family here, right, you have Larry Ellison, the father of David Ellison, who's the founder of Oracle. He's a strong Trump supporter as well. He's also now among the investors in this newly configured American version of TikTok. The family's also aiming to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. This father-son duo now controls huge swaths of the media, both in social media and in Hollywood and on television. How does that change the landscape?
Yeah, these are the new media titans of our age. Like you said, they already control Paramount, which means they control CBS News, the Paramount Pictures studio, and now they are, to my...
Yeah, Paramount's also obviously releasing a October 7 flick tomorrow, right? I believe it's coming out tomorrow, if it hasn't come out yet. It's about October 7, 2023. Very obviously, they're just trying to quickly push pro-Israel narratives. Are you going to watch it on stream? Fuck no.
Understanding, according to sources, preparing a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, which obviously has the Warner Brothers studio, controls HBO Max, and also has CNN. And so what you could see soon is David Ellison and his son, Larry Ellison and his son, David Ellison, controlling a large part of how Americans absorb the information from around the world, the news, as well as entertainment. They could own TikTok, they could own Paramount, they could own Warner.
Now, Oliver Darcy is nailing it. Now, of course, they're not saying the quiet part out loud, which is that this is done not only to boost or try to launder Trump's reputation as long as Trump plays ball with the Ellisons, but also to launder the reputation of Israel. Okay? That is a huge component. Bari Weiss and the Ellisons are massive, rabid Zionists by their own admission. And the deal even took place, according to the Redstones. Like the fact that 60 Minutes and CBS News was sold off to the Ellisons was specifically because the Redstones were frustrated, the previous owners were frustrated with how critical 60 Minutes was of Israel because of the one time that they covered what's going on in Gaza halfway decently, months after the fact, where they said American bombs are killing children in Gaza. And this is not a secret. Like, they openly stated it. Every party involved has openly mentioned their interest in making CBS News and 60 Minutes more pro-Israel. This is not a secret. This is not like, oh, Jews control the media type, like anti-Semitic conspiracies. This is very straightforward. Okay? And what's interesting to me, at least, is that at least, like, you know, PBS is talking about the consolidation and its like obvious impact. But with NPR, they're not even mentioning what the reason is. Here's David Folkenflik. Bari Weiss will be editor-in-chief of CBS News as Skydance set to announce acquisition of Free Press. What does it mean for CBS? My story and chat with Steve Inskeep on NPR's Morning Edition. This article has one mention of Israel, zero mention of Bari's self-admitted rabid Zionism, the Zionism of the billionaire behind the deal, the internal CBS drama around its reporting on Gaza, and no mention of the atrocity denial that the Free Press regularly engaged in. And I think that is by design. They're totally ass covering for one of the most significant components of why this deal is taking place to begin with. Zero mentions of Israel in this story, says Hamid Bendas, even though the former chief of Paramount, Sherry Redstone, said in August her shakeup at CBS was about making the network more pro-Israel. Like, look at this. Sherry Redstone hoped Trump's 60 Minutes lawsuit would root out anti-Israel bias at CBS News, and she sold Paramount partly over October 7. New York Times' coverage does not mention this at all. Paramount buys the Free Press, ushering a new era at CBS News. Bari Weiss, the founder of the Free Press, will become editor-in-chief of CBS News. It is so crazy. This is exactly what we are talking about when we say mainstream press is losing its credibility. I'm sorry. You mean to tell me there were 3 journalists, okay, 3 media reporters on the story, on the byline, and not a single one was even remotely curious about the self-admitted perspective of Sherry Redstone or the Ellisons or Bari Weiss on the 60 Minutes saga, or even on the self-described ultra-Zionist perspectives of all of the parties involved? Really? That's not even remotely interesting at a time when the leader of a foreign nation on U.S. soil openly talks about how wonderful it is that TikTok is now being sold to a pro-Israel billionaire, and how important a weapon it is to control social media. Really? For those that don't know, this is the impeccable journalism of Bari Weiss. Yeah. Twitch star Hassan Piker just received a glowing profile in the New York Times. He also calls Jews inbred, says it doesn't matter if rape occurred on October 7, and argues that Zionists should be treated like neo-Nazis. Now, this was my favorite article ever written about me, if we're being real, especially because most of the article actually revolves around how fucking hot I am. The handsome face of terror apologia. It's awesome. Yeah. Paramount is about to pay $150 million for this. My favorite actress is not human. Tilly Norwood doesn't need a hairstylist, has no regrettable posts, and if you wish to see a virgin on screen, this is one of your better chances. That's because she's AI. This is an article for only one audience. This is not an article written for a real public interest. This is an article written for the billionaires that are invested in AI. Okay? That is exactly how the free press operates. Ironically enough, they're not so free, right? They are writing these articles to make billionaires who are invested in AI to think, oh, there is a real opportunity for propaganda here, and there's a real readership around articles such as this. It's not. You will never, in a million fucking years, find an average person in the real world who saw the AI Hollywood actress being unveiled and went, oh, that's awesome. I love that, actually. No, this is for no one. This is just for billionaires to look at, people who are invested in AI to look at and go, oh, this is good. I like this. Not trying to gatekeep, but I think it's actually really essential sleight of hand here. Bari Weiss is not a reporter. She has never done any reporting in her life and is only a journalist, in air quotes, in the expanded definition that includes opinion journalists. She, like me, is a pundit, and like myself as well. Okay? An important sleight of hand, because once one establishes she is not a reporter in any sense, one is compelled to ask why a pundit is being put in charge of a news division. There is a reason. It's because she'll push reporting to reflect Ellison's pro-Israel ideology. Yes, she sent a message as the new editor-in-chief of CBS News to all CBS News employees. It goes as follows. Dear colleagues, I'm thrilled and humbled to be writing to you as the new editor-in-chief of CBS News. Growing up, CBS was a deep family tradition. Whenever I hear that tick, 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 or that trumpet fanfare, it sends me right back to our den in Pittsburgh. The opportunity to build on that legacy with you and to renew it in an era that so desperately needs it is an extraordinary privilege. Right now, I imagine you have some questions. I do too. My goal in the coming days and weeks is to get to know you. I want to hear from you about what's working, what isn't, and your thoughts on how we can make CBS News the most trusted news organization in America and around the world. I'll approach it the way any reporter would, with an open mind, a fresh notebook, and an urgent deadline. Can you imagine if the reporters came up to her and were like, hey, a big part of the reason why we're losing our fucking our credibility is because people think we're like, serving the interests of a foreign nation state, Israel. And I think we could do a lot better reporting on that front and talk about the genocide openly. I assume she would probably fire those people, right? She would fire those people instantly. What I can tell you on day one is that I stand for the same core journalistic values that have defined this profession since the beginning, and I will continue to champion them alongside you. 1, journalism that reports on the world as it actually is. 1, journalism that is fair, fearless, and factual. Once again, journalism that is fair, fearless, and factual. Hasan Piker has been called a model for the future of progressive media. He also calls Jews inbred and says Zionists should be treated like neo-Nazis. That's the journalism that's fair, free, and factual. Or who could forget some better free press articles like there is no genocide in Gaza, or some more choice free press articles. There is no famine in Gaza. Incredible stuff. The Gaza famine myth. 3, journalism that respects our audience enough to tell the truth plainly, wherever it leads. 4, journalism that makes sense of a noisy, confusing world. Journalism that explains things clearly without presentation or jargon, or pretension and jargon. Journalism that holds both American political parties to equal scrutiny. Journalism that embraces a wide... Oh, you know what that means. Oh, I love that. That's my favorite. I have a question for the crowd here. I have a question for the chat here. Have you ever talked to someone that presented themselves as a centrist who revealed themselves to actually be someone of the leftist background? Anyone that openly says they're apolitical or a centrist is always a right-wing figure ashamed of their perspective, or a right-wing figure that's unashamed of their perspective, but simply wants to propagandize a right-wing position under the auspices of objectivity. I've never met someone who's like, I'm a centrist, and then it turned out that they were like a left-wing person. Never. Never, ever, ever. They are always right-wing. No, they don't exist. Centrism is 3 different types of people: people who are tuned out, people who have partisan beliefs on both sides, and like 5 clowns who think the government is working perfectly. Obviously, when I talk about someone who is a self-described centrist but might actually have leftist values or whatever, I'm not talking about the average person, because the average person is not exactly well equipped to tackle politics. They don't really understand the world. I'm talking about in the professional media sphere. In the professional media sphere, when someone says they're a centrist, know that they are a right-winger. Okay? That's it. Anyway, going forward, journalism that holds both American political parties to equal scrutiny, as we joked about. Journalism that embraces a wide spectrum of views and voices so that the audience can contend with the arguments, the best arguments on all sides of a debate. Journalism that rushes towards the most interesting and important stories, regardless of their unpopularity. Yeah, that's the Israel position here. It's unpopular to be pro-Israel, but we will be uncompromisingly pro-Israel. Journalism that uses all the tools in the digital era. Journalism that understands the best way to serve America is to endeavor to present the public with facts first and foremost. I look forward to meeting many of you, blah, 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 all this shit, right? Anyway, it is very obvious what's taking place here. And yet, the media is once again dropping the ball. Perhaps it is on purpose.